Welcome one and all to Umami Manga. I'm one of your hosts, Petter, and with me I got my co-host, James.
Hello.
And in this episode we are talking about Volume 15 of To Your Eternity. We are now fully caught up to the English physical releases of this series. So, yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah, I'm happy and also sad because now I gotta wait until December.
Yeah, it's gonna be rough.
Yeah, because I really like how this ended. Well, I mean, although it did kind of end the same way as the previous two volumes.
So far all three volumes since we got into the present day have had sort of similar-ish endings.
At least the final panel,
Right,
final page.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like with the Mizuha being lustful in a sense for Fushi, or maybe that's the wrong word. Anyway, or maybe it's not the wrong word.
Maybe you're not far off.
But anyway, let's get into the character discussions, starting with Fushi. So, first of all, I just want to point out that we never got a follow-up on those turtle eggs that he laid in the previous volume. Mm-hmm. He seemingly just left those there at the beach.
Well, I mean, they gotta hatch eventually, but it's gonna take some time, right?
I suppose. Right. Maybe he will return for them.
But honestly, I don't think anything's going to happen. Just those turtles are going to go on with their lives, and we'll never know about it. They'll go on to become the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Oh my God! It's the origins for that whole thing. So, oh my God, To Your Eternity is the origins for that and for Santa Claus. I think we talked about that.
Oh wow, we're learning so much.
But anyway,
so origin.
Yeah. But that's kind of how sea turtle babies work, though, right? I think they do hatch on their own and get into the ocean by themselves, I think.
Right. Yeah, no, they do. I don't know how long it takes for them to hatch out of the eggs, but I don't think it's instantly.
No, that would be weird, I suppose. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's like for the standards of a sea turtle, it's probably no big deal that the parent isn't around. So I guess Fushi gets a pass there.
Yeah, of all the animals to transform into, I guess that was the easiest one to abandon.
Yeah, although he did feel perhaps some kind of love for them when he laid the eggs.
I don't know. I think he maybe was experiencing pain. I'm not sure.
Oh, maybe. I
can't imagine it's comfortable to lay that many eggs.
True. That's a really good point, actually. But I guess we'll move on from that. I don't suppose there's too much relevance there, at least right now.
I just think it's interesting. It took us a long time to get to Fushi in this volume, and then when we finally do, he's contemplating about that whole scene, how the previous volume ended, and how she wants to teach him what love is.
Yeah.
So he's having kind of second thoughts about it all. Agreeing to it, thinking about Perona and March, their death, and Hayase's line and love.
Yeah.
And I wondered if his visions, or I guess his just memories of Hayase was a sign that Mizuha would go and do a similar thing, go after the enemies to her love, the obstacles she has in her way, because that's basically what Hayase said about Perona and March, saying that they were in the way of their love, and so I wonder if that is kind of a parallelism to be made with Mizuha right now. However, I'm not saying that's a fact. I'm just saying that could be an interesting comparison. And when you look at the end of this manga and you see, or the end of this volume, and you see how Mizuha confronts don't tell me. Don't tell me. Don't tell me. Don't do it.
Are you sure?
Don't do it. Don't Funa.
Oh yes.
Funa. When she confronts Funa,
well done.
Now that only took me a second to remember.
Yeah.
Maybe there was a bit of Hayase motivation there. And we can, I guess, maybe save that specific discussion for later. But I just think
Mm.
thinking about Hayase at this point in time and potential comparison with her or her
Descendant.
descendant. That's the word.
Mm.
Yeah.
For sure, absolutely. I don't think I necessarily thought of it that way, but I do agree. I'm sure that's, or I definitely see that similarity between Mizuha and Hayase there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, I guess it could also mean that Tonari may be in danger, or any girl who gets
Mm,
close to Fushi. Maybe that could be dangerous. Maybe.
for sure.
Of course, we don't know how it's gonna all go down.
Yeah, that is interesting. I guess for me, for that early scene with Fushi, I just thought it was nice to see him sort of talking to Perona in that way,
Mm-hmm.
while being in her form as well, but just missing her, of course, since she's one of the few really big characters that weren't able to make it,
Yeah.
you know.
Right.
So I just thought it was nice to see some more focus on her, I suppose, even though it was just that
Mm-hmm.
that little bit.
Yeah, the Perona "I wish you were here" line.
Mm.
It got me. It's like, same, bro.
Yeah,
Same.
totally. I am hoping for something like similarly to this, perhaps some sort of focus on Reen as well. Maybe Gugu would be there for that. Like something about that. Like I said, I don't want her to be forgotten either.
Fair.
But I mean, I don't know. Obviously, the story would need to. Well, it would have to make sense with everything going on, of course, and stuff like that. But
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think another reason to bring up Perona, though, is that hair tie
exactly.
that we've seen. And I don't know if you remember this, but I had said that Hana could look exactly like Perona,
Yes.
just in modern day.
You said that when we talked about volume 13, that
Yeah.
her eyes might be, or her, well, yeah, she might look similar.
Well, I thought potentially her eyes and a bit of her bangs as well could look.
Right.
So when we get a face reveal, yeah.
Hmm.
But there was something else that kind of pushed me in that way, and that was the hair tie with the feather. But I couldn't remember for the life of me why I felt that way. Well, then I looked back at pictures of Perona, and she has a hair tie with a feather on it
Yes.
in some cases.
Oh, I think she always does.
Oh, or always does.
Yeah.
I think there was one shot I saw that she didn't
Gotcha.
have it for some reason.
Maybe.
But anyway, but yeah.
Yeah, because it obviously it was very clear in this book. It was very obvious to see, like, well, to notice the feather in Perona's hair when Fuji was in her form at the beginning of this book. I had completely, I don't think I had necessarily noticed that detail in her character design before this book. So because I remember when we talked about volume 12, at the end of that discussion, when we were talking a little bit about that final page that sort of teased the modern age, when we saw Mizuha for the first time and she was putting that hair tie in her hair. I think you asked me then if there was some sort of significance to that feather, and we were both kind of stumped at it at the time. We couldn't really, like, we didn't know what was, if there really was any significance there.
Right.
But obviously this is it, and especially since you brought up the theory about Hana being, resembling Perona, the volume after that, then, and with her being the one who made Mizuha that hair tie and having made herself a new one as well after that. So there's definitely, with all of that taken into consideration, I think your speculation about her resembling Perona is a lot more credible now.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, and just going back to that speculation we had or I guess we were trying to think of speculation in volume 12.
Yeah.
For some reason, it felt like it had significance, and I just couldn't remember or think of what it was until the next volume. But even then, I was kind of like, what did it have to do with Perona? I couldn't figure it out, and then obviously.
Right.
Well, okay, you want to be? I'll be honest. I didn't look back to see if she had a hairpin. I was lazy, okay?
That's what it was.
It wasn't until this volume I was like, wait a minute, did she always have that hair tie? And then I looked back, I was like,
Yeah, as well. Yeah, I did the same thing. I kind of flipped through the pages of the first two volumes, and every panel I found of Perona there, she had the hair tie. Maybe she didn't when she was like washing her hair, perhaps like washing like in the river or something. But yeah, pretty much whenever she was dressed or well regularly, like she always had it there. So
Hmm.
That's I'm a little bit upset at myself for not having, I guess, picked up on that and remembered that. But oh well.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for this volume for spelling it out for us a little bit
Yeah.
because we need it, I think. But yeah, anyway, back to Fushi. Something I felt was kind of nice was that after Mizuha bought him the new clothes when they were on their date, he actually took her advice on that because he was wearing that same outfit at least throughout the entirety of this book. After that, with the
Oh
exception
yeah.
of when he was in like at the school talking to Funa, when he was wearing his school uniform. But besides that, I'm pretty sure he was constantly wearing those clothes that Mizuha bought him. So I thought that was nice. He actually, well, because I feel something I'm really appreciating with Fushi, and it's gotten more and more clear sort of as these three books have gone on, is how he, even though he understands that Mizuha is, well, she has her issues.
Hmm.
Obviously, ever since the first book when he found her, volume 13 when he found her, he knew she had just killed her mother, or supposedly anyway. So there's always been difficulties, I suppose. But even despite all of that, he still really wants to put an effort in to be a friend to her and to support her. And I just think that's a very admirable trait.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't think he wants to give up on her or just
Mm,
think, oh well, because your bloodline's like this, that you're gonna be evil. You're gonna be
yeah.
a terrible person.
Uh huh.
And part of it could be just that by the end of this volume, I think he's come to grips with the fact that this isn't the peaceful world anymore. But
Hmm.
you know, towards when the arc first started, he was definitely under the impression that this was a peaceful world,
Yeah.
and he wanted to give Mizuha the benefit of the doubt, and still does. And I mean, we'll see what happens with next volume after how it ends. But yeah, I think he is a good support for her. And the clothes I didn't think too much of, other than he was just kind of willing to not stick out as much. But
Mm.
that's a good point as well.
Right. Yeah. Just the fact that she bought them, like not like firstly she bought them for him, and secondly she told him to continue wearing them. I thought was nice.
Hmm.
More on that date, he sort of tried to make Tonari's friends' dreams come true in various ways, although through himself. Which
Hmm.
I I definitely understood Tonari's, why she was upset at that later on, but at the same time I don't exactly blame Fushi because I think, well, because he was sort of blaming himself not for the same reason that Tonari was blaming him for, but after Tonari had sort of talked to him about that, he was sort of beating himself up over it as well, although for a slightly different reason. Let me see if I can just find that real quick because I feel like it was yeah, oh yeah, he said he used Upa and the others, Tonari's friends, to alleviate the powerlessness that he felt for being unable to save them. That's sort of how he blamed himself after all that. But I think he needed something to brighten, like, or well, to ease his mind, because he's been burdened with this whole Nokker business and pretty much carrying it all on his shoulders by himself ever since getting into the present day. Since he wants the rest of his friends to live without really knowing about it.
But that's the issue: is that he used their bodies, that are precious to Tonari,
Of course.
for his, I guess, his own stress relief, for his own enjoyment.
Mm.
And I totally understand when he decided to start doing those things, and the purpose and his purpose for going to those places was to fulfill their dreams. I totally get that, but he couldn't fulfill their dreams; they were dead.
Yeah.
Um, so he was just really experiencing their dreams,
Hmm.
himself. So it's a touchy thing, and I do think Tonali was a bit dramatic about it all. But I guess it goes to show that human emotions are complicated, and especially when you're dealing with people that you really love and care about, yeah, that can be very frustrating to see. Um,
Mm.
especially if someone kind of uses your friends in a way. In this case, just I guess use their bodies. I mean, it's a strange concept that would never happen in our own life, really,
Mm.
but I can see where the conflict is, and I think, to be honest, I think Fushi should feel bad. Um, it, not to say that he meant any sort of anything bad from it, but I think it wasn't the right decision to make.
Right. I mean, ideally, he shouldn't have needed to ease his mind that way in the first place, because I think he should have, let all his friends in on this and let them help him from the start about the Knockers. I understand him wanting them to live carefree. I understand that, but I think that's still a dumb decision that he made. I think he should have let them in on that, because then he wouldn't have been pushed to those extremes to where he would have done something like that he did on his date with Mizuha. I think.
Hmm. And I wonder if this is a sign a bit to kind of the theme or challenge for Fushi right now, learning about love. And I wonder if his inability to recognize something as being insensitive,
Mm. Oh yeah.
maybe that's a sign of his, you know, bit of lack of humanity, I guess. And I felt like there was a few moments in this volume where we had evidence of love in various aspects, and we'll discuss them as going forward. But evidence of love that Fuji himself maybe doesn't quite understand or fully grasp,
Yeah.
um, and maybe that would help him become even more human. But I mean,
Mm.
again, I'm not saying that Fushi can't love. I totally think he can love, but going into this and looking for those themes and seeing places where maybe Fushi doesn't quite understand being human still. I can see maybe places where he could improve.
For sure. Absolutely. And I like what you said about Fushi being a bit insensitive sometimes, because that's like, this wasn't the first time that he
Mm-hmm.
did something insensitive. Of course, it varies. It's in different ways. But for
Right.
example, I think it was the previous volume when Tonari had bought herself a new outfit, like the dress. His reaction was he just pointed and laughed at her. That's not really like so cool, you know. It's fine to be like to give constructive criticism or whatever, but like the reaction he gave was definitely not so cool,
Mm-hmm.
for example. So, but yeah,
Right.
he has room to grow.
Yeah, totally. And perhaps it's empathy is the kind of love that he is seeking, but I'm not sure.
Hmm, hmm.
There was a moment that it kind of goes with this during that date where Kazumi, is that her name? Or no, what was her name?
The girl from the orphanage.
Sumika.
Yeah.
Yeah, the girl from the. She was always chasing, and then Fushi turns into Mia, and they get away. Well, Fushi says a line where like the beholder needs to hide behind a girl now or something like that. And
Mm-hmm.
let me actually get the line. I forgot
Yeah.
to write it down.
He says he's letting a girl protect him, and that he's let humans affect him.
Yes, lets humans affect him. That line. And I was just kind of like, what? Like, I mean, yeah, yes, like it is true that, or I do think that the beholder's becoming more human
Hmm.
and somewhat. Although I think Fushi is maybe not seeing the bigger picture here, and I think he's way too doubtful of the beholder's intentions than he should be. But I could be wrong.
Hmm.
Anyway, but it's interesting that he would say that he's let the humans affect him. Just the way that it's worded, it sounds like Fuji himself hasn't been affected by humans. But I mean, it depends just how you take it. You could also take it as he's only talking about beholder
Hmm.
and not you know
Not himself as well.
not himself as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I was having the same thoughts about that. Like, is this like a jab at only the beholder, or is it like something that he considers himself higher than the beholder in that regard? Because he was
Yeah.
sort of scoffing at it. But it was also ironic, or it was funny, because the panel after that, Mizuha points out that she protected Fushi, so
Exactly.
being a girl or a human, whatever, you know. Uh, so it's funny, but
But well, that's what confuses me. Yeah, and I understand it's supposed to be funny as well, but that's what confuses me is he says that, and yet Mizuha does the same thing for him.
Mhm.
So I, I guess other than him being just hypocritical about the whole thing, does he still not see himself as human? I mean,
Yeah.
I understand that he has these supernatural abilities, but I always thought that he was trying to kind of protect his humanity, where he kind of prided himself in being sympathetic or,
Hmm.
you know, not willing to kill people and whatnot.
Yeah. I mean, he has been having these doubts about
Mm-hmm.
not understanding love and thus perhaps not being fully human or perhaps not being
Mm,
considered a human. So maybe it's something along those lines.
maybe it's something else. Yeah, potentially.
Hmm.
I mean, at this point, I can just really just point it out and say I'm not entirely sure.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. We shall see. Got anything more on Fushi?
Yeah, towards the end, or I think in the final chapter, Fushi gets the feeling he's being watched,
Hmm.
and I was like, what is it microscopically that he's being watched, or is it being watched from paradise? And can you sense
Oh.
that?
Oh.
I don't
So
know.
I just naturally assumed it was like, well, the microscopic knockers, but we did get to know that the Mimori Nokker was observing things from paradise in this book.
Supposedly, yeah.
So I suppose that's a possibility as well.
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't expect it's any like person, who's at the school just watching him constantly kind of a thing.
Right.
It's got to be either microscopically or I guess paradise
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think so too. I mean,
or something
it's
that we don't quite understand.
knockers at the very least,
Yeah.
or guardian spies, something, because
Yeah,
that
I
also started
wonder.
surfacing in this book more, like them
Yeah.
being somehow involved in some shady stuff here. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Dude, the grandpa. Watch out for the grandpa.
Yeah, definitely. He's definitely come into my mind more after having read this book.
And that's all I have on Fushi.
Gotcha. Then let's talk a little bit about Mizuha next.
Okay.
So, given what we learn about the knockers in this book, I think it seems more safe to say now that she was under the knocker's control when she killed her mother. Perhaps,
Yep.
like it's probably not 100%, but it
Right.
seems like it seems much more likely now than it did before.
I'm like 90, 95.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that
Uh huh.
it is the case.
For sure. Yeah, yeah. Like I'm
Um,
very sure as well. I just don't want to say it's guaranteed, but it definitely
right. We
definitely
can't.
seems
Hmm.
much more likely. Uh, and just that the knocker is sort of, well, it's going in and out of control, and Mizuha not having memory of it when it is in control, and that's why there was that memory
Right.
gap and all that. So it does add up.
But it could also be kind of a fake out situation as well. I totally
Exactly.
get it.
Right. Right.
Which would make Mizuha even more sketchy if she actually does have memories of all that, but I don't think so.
Oh. Yeah. I don't think that.
Oh, okay.
If it is a fake out, I think it's a fake out in the sense that it was like a natural memory gap that just happened because of like the trauma or something, you know.
Then how would you explain the thing that just happened with Funa?
So yeah, that I think definitely probably is the knocker. Yes. However, and as I said, I think it's the most likely case is that it is the knocker back when she killed her mother. I'm just saying if it is a fake out, then that's probably what it is. But I'm most likely thinking that it is the knocker.
Yeah, I mean, I think if it's a fake out, I think it's got to be that Mizuha is fully aware of her actions
Okay.
and that
Huh. Wow.
she's kind of repressing some of those memories herself.
Like she's making herself forget about it.
Yeah, yeah. Like at least especially the first part. And with Funa, or the first part being her mom,
Mm-mm.
and then with Funa, you could almost argue that she could be pretending to be slipping out of consciousness, if you will.
Yeah.
However, I don't think that's the case. I do think it's the Nokker. I mean, like I said, 95%
Yeah.
sure.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
But I'm just, if it were another way.
Right. Then we are mostly in the same boat on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So it's interesting. She then, ever since the first book when we saw her, itching her arm and stuff, that was probably because of the microscopic knockers, which at the time weren't controlling her, but would perhaps from now and then, like, yeah, from time to time, uh, sort of take control without her noticing or knowing about it. Anything more on Mizuha?
Yeah. So when she slaps the dude,
Yes.
Rikuya, all of his bones break eventually. It
Uh-huh.
takes a whole night to happen, but all of his teeth fall out, which is really gross. And then he's just like swole up.
Yeah, yeah, his whole body just kind of fell apart.
So, I mean, if that's not evidence of some sort of knocker activity, I don't know what is.
Right. Yeah. I was really weirded out by that. I mean, probably everyone was who it's because it was just such a like a body horror kind of thing all in a way. And
Yeah.
like man, and yeah, I also sort of tried to trace it back to that slap, which
Well, I mean, what else could it be?
so I had either the thought that that it's the slap in some sort of combination with the knocker shenanigans. Either that, like knockers sort of attacking his body from within or something, or infesting something within him that caused that or whatever. Either it's something like
Hmm.
that, which Mizuha herself probably wasn't aware of, but that the
Oh
knocker
no,
within her probably would
no.
have done when she slapped him. I get if it's that, or it's the Guardians having interfered with it in some sense, maybe having
Mm,
I don't know gotten some kind of poison into him to because he was being rude to Mizuha. I don't know. I just don't want to overlook the Guardians at this point. I guess.
that's fair. I just, yeah. I mean, yeah. Maybe something else happened to him that we are just not aware of yet,
Huh.
and that's what actually caused it all. But
Yeah.
I'm not sure why they would potentially implicate Mizuha in all that. But
Hmm.
maybe nothing bad will happen to her. And I mean, I don't think
Right.
anything should. Obviously, she didn't mean for any of that
No. Oh
to
no.
happen to him,
Hmm.
and all she was doing was just getting the guy away from Fushi. And,
Right.
and to be fair, like he had no right to go start throwing fists like he did. I mean,
No. No. He was just salty, really, or well, he
yeah.
was envious or
Well,
jealous.
and he was also jealous, also probably trying to show off,
Right.
whether he wants to admit it or
Oh
not.
yes. Oh yes.
You know, yeah, and obviously Fushi it was not trying to woo that Funa girl. It's just
Right.
anyway. I don't blame Mizuha for slapping the kid,
Hmm.
and it's just really sad that this happened to him though.
Oh, absolutely. It's man, yeah, and I look forward to hopefully learning like the cause of that, the reason behind it in the next volume,
Yeah.
and along with that, whether or not it's related to the Guardians or not, I want more on the Guardians, and perhaps
Hmm.
Mizuha's grandfather,
I
like and
agree.
stuff like that. I especially since they've been kind of brought back into the story with this book in a way, well, sort of through some comments at least.
Hmm.
So yeah, and yeah, like with the Naginata and like all of that,
Yeah, man.
we need more on them.
Indeed. And I believe that's all I have on Mizuha.
All right, then let's talk a bit about Hirotoshi next, the guy who sort of opened up this whole volume, and man, he's a really weird dude.
He may be a degenerate, he may be a pedophile, but at least he's got heart.
Right, it's like he's not a bad guy. He would never like act on some of the things that he probably feels.
Fantasizes about.
Right, right, right. I don't think he would, ever do any of those things. Which, well, I mean, at least we assume. He seems like a good guy, yeah. But man, yeah, he's weird for sure.
Yeah, I don't like how he says when he sees his when he sees Momori for the first time, he's like it's almost like true or first love, and I was like, don't
Yeah,
say that,
yeah, that was like the
don't say that.
first, like, really, like, oof moment with him.
Like no please, no please. And there was a few
Yeah, right.
other oof
There
moments.
definitely were, like, when he, like, looked at her bare legs when he was,
Uh,
like, in a tie her shoe. Like, also, like, dude, get a grip. But then we do, like, it sort of makes up for it. I mean, well, first of all, he never acts on it, as I said. Like, he doesn't do anything
yeah.
actually. He doesn't actually do any bad actions necessarily.
Uh huh.
He is controlling himself, which is respectable, I suppose. I guess. But anyway, we do get to see these very noble moments of him later on when he goes to the parents meeting thing, parents day at school, and
Right.
all of that.
This equipment is too advanced for my level. It's like, oh my gosh,
Yeah,
what a
that
dork.
was so funny. That was probably like, because he made little comments like that from time to time, but that was definitely the funniest one, I thought.
Uh,
Like, oh
I
my
bet you
god.
there are people who will say ridiculous thing like
I'm
that. I mean, look,
yeah.
if you're one of those people, you're listening to this podcast. I'm not trying to misjudge you. It's just really awkward. He's just, and this guy is just really socially awkward. You know what I
Oh,
mean? He's just,
absolutely, absolutely. But
yeah,
as we said, he's a good guy.
yeah, he's a good guy. And
So, but it is really funny. Those comments that he makes from time to time, and I guess toward the end, his whole thing when he came. Well, what's the word? What do you call people that show their naked bodies in English?
stripper,
Uh,
flasher.
Flasher. Yes, flasher is the word I was looking for. Yeah, that was also obviously really out there and weird, but sort of funny as well. And poor Fushi got terrified. But yeah, yeah, those pages were like, oh my god. Like, there were several panels too of him just really showing off, and that, like, oh my god, dude, stop it. Nobody wants to see that. But it was funny though. But I guess the biggest thing for him, not counting his backstory, I suppose, was him fighting the Mimori Nokker, and
Yeah,
even though he didn't stand a chance whatsoever, he didn't give up,
right,
and thanks to that, Mimori wanted to live again. So
for
that
sure.
was pretty awesome.
I mean, him standing up for and promising Mimori a better life was very, very admirable.
Oh, for sure.
And obviously, he was in over his head, but at that point, then maybe that was the only way to get Mimori to, I guess, come to her senses and realize that, it's better to keep living.
Hmm.
And perhaps that's another example of love for Fushi to
Oh yeah.
uh, take note of. Although he doesn't really comment on it at all, but I hope he maybe thinks about it and be like, hey,
Mm,
that's an aspect of love.
exactly.
And I don't mean romantically. Let me
Right.
be
Right.
clear.
Yeah. 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 For sure. For sure.
I'm glad he's still alive.
Yeah. I thought he was gonna die in this, like, during that whole thing.
Yeah, it was. Oh man, I mean, he had a sword to his neck.
Uh huh.
That was pretty. Yeah, it was pretty close. But yeah, he's alive, and hopefully he'll be able to give or help Nimori have a life where she could be happy.
Yeah. Hmm.
Just stop being a degenerate.
Yeah. I really hope he can grow out of that.
No more of that, guy.
For sure. And well, I speaking of thinking he would die, the first panel of chapter 137, chapter called "A Say," the first panel is Mimori just kicking his head, and him just, and then later on he just flies into the building, which obviously
Yeah,
Fushi blocked with futons, but like, well, fair. I know Fushi blocked the well. He softened the impact, so he saved him that way. But just the kick
Hmm.
initially, I feel like that would have killed him. Like, and it's also funny that how that kick is like her heel to his cheek and like breaking probably his jaw and his teeth in the process, and
Hmm.
it's with those shoes that he bought for her, and I
Yeah,
just feel
it is
like it's such a
ironic
cruel, yeah, ironic and cruel image of him being kicked by the very shoes that he bought for her.
for sure. Yeah, that whole scene was really brutal and
Yeah,
um, was hard to watch, honestly.
yeah, it really was. It felt like it went on forever, even though it wasn't that long. But it was
Uh
probably
huh.
just because it was so, yeah, so brutal, and you felt
One
so,
sided.
yeah, right, for sure. Yeah. Anything more on Hirotoshi though?
Yeah, I have one more, and it's just a funny kind of joke that
Mm.
Oima had, where he's imagining all these sisters in his games and anime
Uh-huh.
calling him Onichan or various ways of it, but there's like a dude bro in the back who's like Aniki or something.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love it. It's
That
so
was
funny.
that was really funny. Yeah, it was like the cover of one of his books, I think, that had like a bunch of like well, little sister images, and like in the background there was that macho man.
Oh, it wasn't a cover. It was just it was him thinking of various ones.
Wait, no, there was one. Wait, are we all thinking about different ones then? Because there was like a book cover in his.
Yeah, he had like a his prized possession, but um, it wasn't the cover of the game.
Oh yeah, maybe it's a game or a book or something. But yes, no, it is the cover. It is literally the cover. It's just more closed up.
What chapter is that again?
It's the first chapter of the book, 133.
Okay, make sure I get that right. Well, that's funny. You're right. It is the cover.
Right. Yeah.
I didn't realize. I just thought he was just imagining them because they all have
Oh,
speech bubbles.
right. Exactly.
But
Yeah. Yeah. I guess he's sort of fantasizing the speech bubbles.
yeah.
Yeah. And like, because you can see like the cover, like two panels before that, and like the Macho Man has like speedos on, and like it's pretty funny. My bro. But yeah, I guess we're moving on to Mimori next. And I guess the distinction here is that we're talking about Mimori herself and not the knocker that is
Right.
within her. So what we learn pretty much right off the bat in this book is that the real Mimori is very very timid and shy, and yeah, not really at all like we saw her knocker be in the previous book.
Yeah. I wonder what her voice sounds like because her text is a little different. Like sometimes it's like normally written, at least in my version, it's normally written, and
Uh
then
huh.
some of the words are like squiggly squaggly.
Exactly.
That.
Right. Yeah, I feel like most of the time it was a bit wobbly, sort of, but then sometimes it wasn't. And I guess that to me, I just sort of read that as like most of the time she sounds, I guess, unsure and just kind of like well maybe a little bit of a shaky voice perhaps, nervous
Hmm.
voice, and then maybe sometimes she's able to not sound like that, but most of the time she does. I think.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I think it's definitely not a confident voice. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but usually when it's like something who's soft or quiet, like it'll be a smaller text or something like that.
Right.
It- So yeah, I'm just not. Maybe it's a speech impediment that I'm not quite.
Oh yeah, I guess.
Well, I don't know.
I mean, could be. I guess we'll have to wait for season 3 of the anime or something like that.
Yeah. Anyway, it kind of makes me think she's on the verge of always crying, which
Right.
understanding how terrible her mother has been to her, yeah, it makes
Yeah.
sense.
Let's talk about that actually for a while. Like, sort of similarly to Mizuha's mom, Mimori's mother also didn't really care about her either. Although I'd probably argue Mimori's mother was even worse than Izumi
Oh
was.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think Izumi has care for her daughter in various ways, but obviously social media and whatnot um, clouded clouded that and got in the way. But I think with Mimori's mom, it's almost as if she didn't want to have her.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
doesn't even acknowledge
Uh
her.
huh.
Yeah, it's worse in my opinion.
So yeah, absolutely a lot worse. And well, I couldn't help but think of Shoko Nishimiya's mother again from A Silent Voice,
Oh,
which, for those who don't know, also written by Yoshitoki Oima, who's also a bad mother figure. And now, after having read her character in The Silent Voice, and now since we got into the present day, into your eternity, we had two terrible mothers, and I'm just Yoshitoki Oima, what's up with all these terrible mothers in your stories? Like,
yeah.
I hope you didn't, grow up with a bad mom like that yourself. Like, it makes me think along those lines, and it just makes me worry for Yoshitoki Oima. Because it seems like a trend almost at this point.
She's like, oh, they're just so easy to write.
Right? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and understanding that she is a terrible mother, it makes more sense why she was so willing to let or Hirotoshi, excuse me,
Mm,
uh, s- stay in the house because he'd be, a babysitter, so
exactly.
they can go have fun all the time.
Uh-huh.
And when she first said that, I was just really confused. It's like, okay, like I didn't know how to process it. But then later on, learning about who she really is, like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, wow, way to go,
Mm,
mom of the year right here. So yeah, it's I guess just speaking about Miyabi, yeah, she really is a terrible person, and
mm.
who abandons their child like that? I don't know. I guess there's all kinds of people in this world.
Yeah. Well, for sure. Yeah, and like the saddest thing about it is that I'm sure people like this, like that are a lot like her, actually exist in
Hmm.
this world, and that just makes me feel
It's very
really bad.
unfortunate. Yeah.
But yeah, yeah. I guess I got one little thing more about Mimori is
Hmm.
the essay she wrote for Parents' Day was very sad as well. Like, it
Yeah.
was basically what she wished for, essentially, um, and but it was nothing at all like reality. And yeah, that was pretty sad.
It is really, really sad, and I'm hoping that Hirotoshi can fill that role that the mother doesn't have, or maybe they can,
Mm,
um, you know, somehow snap the mother into taking responsibility
right.
and actually being there for her child.
Yeah.
Either way, I hope Hirotoshi becomes a positive influence in her life, and
Hmm.
yeah, she's able to have those happy memories.
Absolutely. And I have a good feeling he will.
Yeah.
But yeah, anything more on her?
It's just really sad that she wanted to kill herself at such a young age.
Yeah.
Just, man, gosh.
But then let's move on to Sumika.
All right.
She's the toughest one at the orphanage, and she even makes boys cry at school. So, don't mess with her.
I like Sumika.
I had a feeling. uh,
I didn't expect her to be introduced at all, to be honest. I remember seeing her in the volume 13 or 14. I can't remember. It's when Beholder first appears as a child, but
right.
he didn't really say anything. They just like call him over, and she's there, and I was like, okay, well, that's a person, but I don't recognize him, so oh,
Ah.
okay, whatever.
Yeah, yeah. Definitely cool that she got to actually be a character.
Yeah. I wasn't expecting that. It did seem like it was more detailed kind of character. So I was like, what? Am I supposed to know this person? But I guess it was also the fact that I didn't recognize the boy,
Mm,
and so it was trying to find the connection between it all. And then we got the connection later on with Beholder, obviously.
mm.
So she kind of went out of my mind anyway. So now we know who she is, and she's very protective of the orphans.
Exactly. Yeah, and I forget, or well, we probably did know the Beholder's new human name being Satoru. I'm pretty sure we probably knew that before, but I guess I
Hmm.
took note of it for the first time here.
Right,
Um,
right.
and since she was the one who gave him that name, and and she has very much become sort of like a mother figure to him, or well, at least, well, maybe he doesn't view her that way at this point. Perhaps I don't know, but at least I think she has assumed that kind of role at the very least, and
Yeah,
one
big sister,
at the very least, yeah, something like that, like
whole
a
motherly.
guardian figure, and once he loses all of his memories and powers of the beholder stuff in 4 years, then surely she will truly be that to him, I think. But I guess with the whole her having given him the name, it reminded me of March giving Fushi his name, and how the beholder also being like a supernatural sort of thing, being named by a human girl, I guess.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to Aiko's whole thing about uh, Uma, Piora not having a name.
Oh yeah. Oh
Um,
right. Oh yeah, the horse. Yeah, right.
yeah,
Exactly.
Uma is horse in Japanese.
Oh, I see.
um,
mm, mm,
and yeah, so that got me thinking like about how he didn't have any love, so uh,
mm,
she gave him the name Satoru,
mm.
and that was a sign of, I guess, a first sign of love.
Yeah.
Assuming that, I guess that's another evidence of potentially maybe Fushi will understand that.
Right.
And I think again Sumika is another evidence of love for Fushi to take note of, but he doesn't really recognize it yet because he's so caught up in the beholder and not trusting him and
Mm.
whatnot.
Yeah.
So I don't think I don't think Sumika's done.
Oh
I'm
no. Mm.
sure she'll see Fushi again and then try to give him knuckle sandwich.
I hope so.
Yeah, and there's no way Fushi is gonna not try to get the beholder to talk again.
Oh yeah.
Um, so I think yeah they'll be back in the story, and so maybe that'll be the instance where they can talk to each other, and Fushi can see that for himself. But
Mm-hmm.
who knows?
Yeah. For some reason now, I just got the idea that if they do a 4 year time skip to like, because I feel like the point where the beholder goes from being, well, from having all of his powers and or not all of his powers, but some of his powers and his memories, from going from that to not having any of it, it would be nice to be there for that. So to have like a 4 year time skip, or maybe maybe not a full 4 year time skip at one time. Maybe it would be like a few years here and there, but ultimately leading up to a 4 year time skip from now, so we would be able to be there for that. I think that would be really fun, and perhaps seeing how that, like how maybe how he would potentially change a little bit, perhaps, and perhaps Sumika's reactions there. Maybe she would realize something. Maybe I don't know. I don't know why I just thought of it. It was a very spontaneous thought that just occurred to me.
Right.
But I guess thanks, like if something like that happened, we would also get the, I guess, bonus of seeing several of these characters 4 years older. That could be fun.
Yeah, I had the same thought. Not just because I wanted to see what would happen when Tonari and Fushi are 19.
Oh yeah, we sort of talked about that a little bit. Mm.
Right, right. But also because we have this strict deadline. Um, yeah, I hope we get to that point and we see how far Fushi is. Is he ready for the beholder to have his memories completely wiped, or is he gonna be like, I don't know what I'm doing, help?
Right, exactly. Yeah, yeah, because 4 years for Fushi is not much. Like for an
Uh
eternal
huh.
being like Fushi, 4 years is not much time at all. So I'm just
At
thinking
all.
like for him
No.
to only get 4 years warning for that, it's, yeah, not a whole lot of time.
Right. Yeah. No. It'll be fun to see.
Hmm. Should we move on to the next character?
I have one more thing about
All
Sumika.
right, all right, go for it.
Uh, boobs, the most powerful martial arts.
I mean, she's kind of thick all around, I suppose.
Yeah. No. No. She's definitely heftier. Well, hefty maybe not the right word. Uh, I don't know. Yeah. She is. She didn't. I think when she said scrawny body, she did not mean chest size, but obviously that was the focus of it all.
Did she call
Um,
Mizuha's body a scrawny body?
She called it scrawny, didn't she?
Maybe she did in your translation. I think in mine she said that twig you call a body.
Oh, I think it was twig. I think you're right. Yeah.
But I thought that was a funny expression for that.
Right.
I mean, very rude, but funny.
Oh yeah, totally, totally rude. Um, but anyway, but she freaking knows karate and judo or whatever it is.
Wait, does she?
No, not Sumika.
Oh,
Mizuha
right.
does.
Sorry.
She she shouldn't have any issues taking Sumika down
Yeah,
because she has the proper technique.
exactly. I don't. Yeah, I agree.
But it was the boobs. Boobs were too powerful.
Too intimidating.
I'm sorry. I thought it was funny. Okay.
I mean, hey, you got me laughing. Hopefully, you got some of the listeners laughing as well.
It's like, okay, I'm done listening to this.
But yeah, hey, that's a good note to end the Sumika discussion on. Moving on to Funa a little bit. We probably don't have a whole lot. I mean, she didn't appear a whole lot in this book, but well, the only thing I really have that I wanted to point out, and well, it's half. I guess it's partially a speculation as well. Is the last thing that we see happen to her is she's stabbed in the gut with a naginata, and she falls to the ground, and she's bleeding like a pool of blood. And based on the fact that she is a knocker, or she has a knocker dwelling inside of her at the very least, she should survive that, I feel.
Oh yeah.
So, at least based on what we saw of the Mimori knocker, that should not have killed her. Right?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think, I mean, yeah, I agree with you. I think that in order for her to die at this point, it has to be some sort of choice that Funa makes to die. Because Mimori died when she fell off the school roof, killing herself, but she already had the knocker in her. So I think that there has to be a choice made, and obviously it wasn't her choice to get stabbed. So then the knocker could come in and save her.
Right.
And again, who knows? Like maybe this is the thing that takes Funa out of the body and lets the knocker completely own it, because
For sure.
we do see that happen to Izumi, where maybe not entirely similar, but if the knocker took over her body, it probably was already there, maybe.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was just watching. I'm not sure.
Right. No, but I think well, because in all of the examples that we have, or that where we know of it, then they were already there from the start. So I think it's safe to assume Izumi already had her inside of her as well.
Then again, sorry, we're talking about knockers now, but
Oh, it's fine.
I think that, did you remember that how Izumi was in a dead pose, like she was gripping her neck and she was just dead, corpse.
Right.
When Mizuha saw her and ran out.
Yeah, and even when Fushi came there a little bit later, she was still like that.
Oh yeah, she was still there. Now, that didn't happen with Mimori. Mimori basically, the knocker just got up right after that. So that could imply that she didn't have a knocker inside her, and then during that time that she was dead, the knocker grabbed the body and was like, "Sweet."
True. That's a good point, actually. Yeah, I definitely could see that being the case as well. It's either that, or there was a knocker inside of her that just for some reason decided to wait.
So I just maybe it was strategic. Yeah.
Right.
No, I mean I don't know. These knockers are really conniving.
They really are. Yeah. Although I definitely like that possibility as well that you suggested.
But anyway, Funa, I think she'll still be alive.
It's really up to the knocker though, right?
Yeah, it's up to the knocker.
And that doesn't feel good, to leave it in the hands of the knocker.
No, it doesn't. Even though this knocker seems to be almost somewhat benevolent to Fushi's purpose, but obviously not entirely sure.
At least she called herself an enemy.
You're right. She did.
But still, I understand what you mean.
Something that I think is important to note is when Mizuha stabbed her, or before that, she said purging and a guidance. Well, I don't know. I'm not exactly sure what that means for Funa,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, guidance confused me a bit there because
right.
I can understand the first bit, but yeah.
It could be that he purged the body of the actual Phi, and then this would give guidance to the Nokker that's in her, and saying,
Ah,
"Hey, you're not supposed. You're supposed to take over the body,
right.
not, you know, just let her or heal her all the time." I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, dude, maybe. I think that would make sense. I don't know, but I feel like it makes sense though.
I think that's all I really have on Funa. I mean, she seems like a sweet girl.
Right.
Don't really know much about her, and I'm sure we'll learn more.
I really hope so. Mm.
Um, is this another love rival? Not every girl or boy is a love interest.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah. I don't think she will be, but could be fun.
I hope not.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be one, but I hope not. Like I'm tired. Like it's
Are you tired of shipping, James?
I am because there's nothing happening. Like besides
True.
Mizuha. I mean, there are some things. There are some things, but I just want Fuji to understand love already, and then be on his day,
Yeah.
get on with his life.
Right, right. Well, I guess then moving on to the next character, and sort of speaking of shipping and all, let's move on to Tonari. Well, there was that moment between her and Fushi when, he was in Upa's form and turned into himself, or well, he turned into the boy's form,
Hmm.
which made Tonari very flustered. And, well, I think it was very nice, especially for us Fushi Tonari shippers.
They had a moment, or at least
Sort of.
Tonari had a moment. I mean, there was that spot bubble thing that popped up,
Hmm.
indicative of love.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't think that was Sushi who was feeling that. um, so
Mm.
I think it's safe to say that Tonari has those feelings. I mean, we've established this before, but I think
Yeah.
this even confirms it for the reader who wasn't quite
This
sure.
really does. Yeah,
Um,
like seeing like her blush like that as well. I think
or yeah,
I think was
at least some kind of attraction, you know.
right. Yes, some kind.
Uh huh. And yeah, I mean, I think yeah, if you're a really strong Tonari Fushi shipper, then that was a good moment.
For sure.
But then there was a really bad moment, and
Yeah.
that happens in relationships.
Yeah.
But yeah, I hope they're able to make amends, you know, and not have a really bad or rocky relationship going forward. But who knows? And you know, and Tonari was really. It seemed like she was actually trying. Like she kept the hair tie.
Exactly.
That was shocking.
I was very surprised to see her actually having kept that.
You know, it's like she was willing to even give it a little bit of a chance,
For sure. Exactly. Yeah. Right, right. She must have like
right?
some
But then this happens, and well,
mm,
probably not great
right.
to ease her worries or make her feel better. And I think maybe this is the romantic side of me, but I think that there was maybe a bit of jealousy in how Fushi is getting closer to Mizuha.
Mm,
And obviously I understand why she was upset the way she was, but if he had done that with maybe he was with Yuki or someone that wouldn't be after Fushi's heart, I don't think she would be as upset
yeah.
as she ended up being because it was with Mizuha.
Right, right, yeah.
Um,
Like I definitely also got that feeling of, like to some extent that it was somehow jealousy as part of it. But
yeah, like a little bit.
right, but yeah, as you also said, like she obviously that they were like her best friends and how she felt like that was disrespectful. I understand that in and of itself as well. So
Right.
yeah, yeah.
Well, and that's another example of a kind of love that maybe Fushi doesn't
Oh yeah,
fully understand,
right.
you know. And she even says that I love them even more than you.
Hmm.
Um, and so I guess that could be another aspect that he will eventually comprehend.
Hmm.
But either way, he goofed up. He done goofed up.
He did absolutely.
There was a line where uh, I think Gugu says, "Do you think they'll end up going out?"
Right.
And Tonari's face is just she's not amused whatsoever. She's just like, oh, like whatever.
Yeah, yeah. I wonder if our shipping with her and Fushi is like, well, if it's going to actually lead to something real. I wonder how and when. Because I'm just
Mm-hmm.
because like I feel like Tonari is really kind of close. Like, well, she sort of closes herself off to those sorts of things. Like she
Mm.
plays it cool
Mm-hmm.
to the point where
Could it be too
it
late?
makes it difficult. Right? Yeah. Could be something like that.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
good
yeah.
point.
Guess we will see, or maybe we won't. But
Well, I think I've said this before that I'm really open to almost any sort of relationship with Fushi unless I just don't like the person.
Mm.
But as of right now, I think Tonari is just the best candidate.
Oh, I
Um,
agree.
I think they just have a great chemistry together.
Yeah.
But you can't deny the fact that Mizuha has a thing, and personally, I wouldn't go for the crazy blood dripping down the face type. But hey, that's for each his own.
Absolutely. But is that all on Tonari?
Yeah, that's it.
All right, then let's move on to Bonchien. He threw that sword really well into
Yeah, man.
into her
Woo!
neck. That was pretty badass.
On the money.
I thought it was Fushi at first who had thrown it, but then I thought it was Bon. I was like, wow, oh my god, that was awesome.
I almost wish they would have killed the Nokker. I mean, then we wouldn't have gotten the next chapter as it went down, but still, like, such a good shot. It was so cool.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, yeah, it was very cool. Um, I don't have too much really necessarily about Bond himself, but about Nixon and Fen, his ghost buddies.
Right.
They went to like investigate the Mimori knocker, or like, well, to keep watch sort of, but they sort of disappeared. And Izumi's Fi also, well, as we learned near the end of the volume, had also, well, Bond hadn't seen her in a while, so I just really wonder what's up with all of that because it seems like there's something to it.
Right.
And Fushi, I think, suggested the possibility that maybe they had been like pressured into not coming back or like something like that.
Yeah, because Bone says you can't capture them.
Exactly.
No soul has one power over the other, I guess.
Right.
Whatever that means exactly.
Mm.
But yeah, how do you threaten them? Um,
Yeah, I
it's
wonder.
interesting.
Yeah, right. So I don't really have any speculations necessarily on this, but it's just something that I'm very eager to find out, like what's
Right. Oh,
going
I'm
on.
so eager. Yeah. I have two
Uh
thoughts,
huh.
and they're probably similar.
Go for it.
Not, I mean, could the knockers somehow, um, Mimori or another kind of knocker communicate with them somehow,
Mm.
and that's how they're able to, and maybe they threaten the lives of Fushi, Mizuha, and the gang. I'm not sure. Um,
Ooh.
Another possibility are the Guardians, and I don't know. Again, I don't know how they would be able to see it. Knockers seem more likely to be able to see the Fi than
Ye-
the Guardians would be able to,
mm,
but
mm.
maybe they have some sort of partnership with the Knockers, or they themselves are able to communicate with the Fi in a way we just don't quite understand.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah. I mean,
Those are really the only two options I can think of.
I sort of like both of them in different ways. So
Uh huh.
I like the Guardians option because we know that the Guardians have some sort of affinity or some sort of knowledge about Phi, right? About how they've been able to
Yeah.
pass Hayase's Phi on in a way that we don't really know of any other people having done. Like we know the Beholder can do it, but we don't actually know without his intervention how any other humans have been doing that. But the Guardians have been doing it successfully, evidently, with Hayase's Phi for generations. So they have some sort of knowledge about the Phi that most others probably don't. So
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't put it past them.
Right.
And then about it perhaps being the knockers. So when you mentioned that, I got the thought that, or the idea that basically what we've learned about how knockers communicate in the past has been like similar to the Doki Doki people. What were they called? Earthenware people.
Yeah.
That's right. They like basically with imagery and how both parts of the dialogue need to be cooperating to have a conversation in that kind of way, or well, essentially along those lines. And so what I was thinking just when you said this is, what if that type of communication isn't a specifically a knocker communication method, but a phi communication method in general?
Interesting.
And that somehow maybe if you are in a human body or a fleshy form, then you are somehow locked out of that. But maybe I obviously I don't have anything to base this on, but
It's yeah,
maybe.
possibility. I mean, how else would, unless the knockers have some sort of unimaginable way of communicating with each other, like you can't see it, but it's only within like the knocker system. Unless it's that, then surely the Phi are the ones that are communicating with each other, and so maybe Phi
Right,
have that ability.
right.
But Bone, technically, I've never seen Bone acknowledge the fact that he can see the Phi that's in the knocker or anything like that. But I
True.
guess that doesn't extend to communication. Maybe I'm not sure.
Right. Yeah, that there could be a difference there. But yeah, should be fun to find out.
Yeah, that is one plot point of many that I'm excited to, or I'm anxious really,
Yeah, truly.
because I don't know, because they seem to have, they could have like a really nice tidbit of information. I also don't want them to be in danger.
Yeah. Even though they're already dead, yeah. I care for them.
Yeah, actually, yeah.
They've been around
Yeah.
since volume 7, right? Like so, like yeah. I want them to be all right.
Also Yuzumi. Like,
Oh, well, fair.
she's been really helpful.
True. I guess, yeah, I care about her too. Just maybe I care about Nixon and Fenn a little bit more.
That's fair. That's fair.
Anything more on Bond specifically, or?
I think that's all I have on him.
Gotcha. Then let's move on a little bit to the Beholder. I only have one thing on him actually, and it's that
Same.
we sort of learned specifically that, or at least it's pretty safe to assume that he most likely created his current form as it is, pretty much, and just kind of placed it in the world right before becoming that form, I guess. I just assumed that he was pretty freshly made into the world when he was found by the orphanage.
Right. Yeah. I don't think it's any sort of controlling someone else's body or anything. I just
Right.
don't think. I
Yeah.
really do think it was. He just created it and popped it into existence. Um, and it's interesting that he was able to do that. Yeah. Just will Fushi be able to eventually do something similar, which I guess you don't want to have happen per se.
I mean, in like several thousands of years, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Something interesting though, and this is the point I got out of it, or out of his little section. He's experiencing new sensations.
Yeah.
He mentions how warm the tub is, and then it's, I've never eaten this before.
Mm-hmm.
And to be fair, when Fushi got into the modern day, there was foods he hadn't eaten before.
Right.
Um,
Right.
so there's that. But it's interesting if he's lived a life, that is similar to how Fushi has gone about life and growing. And if he's had the same sort of training, wouldn't he have experienced these same things already?
Well,
Um,
I think you made a good point about the food. That
Uh-huh.
the food might be new for this age, so that might not ever have existed in the past.
Yeah.
And about the warm bath, so I had the thought that, first of all, it's not guaranteed that he had ever experienced a hot bath, even though he had lived a long life, because it would have been so far into the past where hot baths, well, hot springs and stuff might have been rarer or hard to come by and only for the richest of people or whatever. However, even if he had experienced it, it would have been so long ago that it would have been like he would have maybe forgotten like the sensation of it.
You're right. That's true as well. And I think going to my beholder theory,
Mm.
I do think that the world either is created or it's reincarnated or it begins anew. So when Fushi reaches a certain level, he will create his own world or begin anew, and it will start from ground zero and or year zero, and then go on from there, and eventually maybe reaching its own modern day type of a thing.
Ah,
That's my whole idea of it.
I
So
see.
that's why it's interesting that he wouldn't have tried that food. That's just my theory, though.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Beholder's take on his the Fushi journey was a little different, and maybe he didn't have the Knockers to oppose him, because he does seem very taken back about their existence. How they came into his garden
Mm.
and everything.
Yeah.
So it could be that his growth into omnipotency was less worried about knockers per se, and just focusing on gaining new powers and less experiences with humans maybe, um,
Right.
and
Oh.
and maybe that's why he's experiencing a couple of these things for the first time,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
potentially. But again, just speculation.
Right. No. So, just to make sure I understood you correctly, what you said earlier
Uh-huh.
was your idea essentially that the behold, like, let's say there was a beholder before the beholder who was sort of the mentor
Uh-huh.
for the current beholder.
Yeah.
I think we both sort of assume something like that.
Yeah.
And then, so when the beholder was where Fushi is now, the world was on a different, what would you call it, growth thing that would be sort of reset once the beholder became as powerful as he could become, when he sort of just recreated all of it. Is that your thinking?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, just yeah, based on your description, yes, I think so. So he gets to the point where Fushi is his own world, modern day, but maybe he doesn't have the luxury or even the chance to enjoy the modern day, or just
Mm.
those kind of conveniences, and he just continues on his training and becoming the next beholder,
Right, right,
and then eventually creates his own world, or the world resets for
right,
whatever
right.
reason.
Gotcha. So I definitely think that's a possibility. That I'm absolutely not ruling it out, and I do think it's definitely a good possibility. But I
Mm-hmm.
also think that another way to look at it, and something that I probably sort of prefer to view it as, um, and it actually goes along with what you said about the beholder not having perhaps interacted with a lot of humans during his days as a disciple, or well, what Fushi is now,
Mm-hmm.
is that the world never was reset, or never a new world was entirely created, but the world has been reinvented more so by each new beholder, quote unquote.
Okay.
And so if the beholder back when he was where Fushi is, or when he was traveling the world or whatever, maybe that was before the age of humans, when other creatures lived on the earth and stuff like that, or some, well, I don't know. And maybe he never actually was a human necessarily in human forms until maybe the end of his term or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps. And then he sort of reinvented. Maybe he was the one who created humans as we know them and stuff like that.
Maybe.
I don't know. It could be just because the Earth has existed for many eternities. I suppose you could say.
Well, not eternities, billions, billion of years.
Right, right. Which I think can be divided into at least a few in human ways of looking at it, eternities.
Well, obviously, yeah, a billion is a long time.
Not like a literal eternity, but
Uh
still,
huh.
a long, long, long time can still be considered an eternity, I suppose.
Well, you want to know what I think about that is,
Uh-huh.
uh, life didn't exist on Earth until a certain point, and it wasn't 4 billion, or was it 4 billion years ago, or
I don't know the numbers.
it took a while for the Earth to form and become habitable by, well, things that weren't, I guess, microscopic.
Uh-huh.
And so I think that potentially the beholder placed Fushi at a time when maybe even humans weren't fully evolved yet, or maybe dinosaurs roamed the.
Right.
I don't know,
Right.
but he placed it. But here's my thinking: is that there wasn't a beholder before him on that same Earth. He
Gotcha.
placed him. The beholder placed him, and then he eventually became a rock, right?
Uh-huh.
But he could have spent millennia as a rock, and then finally became moss or something
Absolutely.
to that extent.
Mm.
So I don't know that's kind of what I'm starting to think is what happened. But maybe you're right. Maybe as long as the Earth has been around, there's been a beholder, and it passes on to the next beholder, and until we've gotten to this point. But I don't know.
Right. I mean, I like both speculations. Obviously we can't tell. We can't say.
Yeah.
But
Right.
yeah, that is definitely fun to think about.
Yeah. We went on this a lot longer than I thought we would, but
Yeah.
it's good discussion.
Yeah.
It's good.
For
Good
sure.
stuff.
For sure. But then I guess we can move on to the final bit of the discussion, the Nokker discussion. Or at least, as far as I know. You can add more after this if you want. But let's talk about the Nokkers for now.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. Okay, Nokkers, yes. So, the Nokker in Mimori's body supposedly started dwelling within her because it felt sorry for her and it wanted to help ease her suffering. At least that's what it said. And Funa's Nokker, and also the guy that we saw in that video a few volumes back who jumped off a bridge, and perhaps also Mizuha's Nokker, and potentially, as we talked about, Izumi's Nokker, could have all been for similar reasons, perhaps. But I just feel like if that is the case with all of these humans that have Nokkers within them, or that have had Nokkers take their bodies over completely, if that is the case, then I still feel like there's more to it. There's more to it than just them, the Nokkers, feeling sorry for the humans. There's got to be more than that, right?
Yeah.
If that's even true at all to begin with, we don't know.
I don't think it's so much as feeling sorry for them as more it is pity. And it's like, oh, you foolish person going down to Earth and experiencing life like that. We told you that you'd have pain, so much pain.
Yeah.
Here, let me fix this for you. Kind of a
Fair.
situation could be the case, or maybe there is a grander scheme at play, which would be very fun, I think.
For sure. Yeah.
Not to say that I don't like the current objective, it seems like, but it just also seems so mysterious and cryptic that I want there to be maybe a grander reason for it all. But yeah, at this point, I think that they view life or the body and having their Phi trapped in there as a way to experience pain and everything like that, and these people want to be free of that, and so maybe they take over the body to let them see or let them have a happy life, but then eventually send them back. Because you live in a world now, or at least the Knockers have realized they live in a world where Fushi exists, and he can replicate a body and put the Phi back in the body.
Right.
So if they can discourage Phi to go back in their body, then their mission's complete, right? The Phi goes back to paradise eventually.
Yeah.
So maybe that's part of the reasoning.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, could be.
I don't know.
I mean, I applaud you for coming up with anything at all, because I didn't really have anything there. Something that I got, I mean, I'm sure pretty much anyone who read this volume got a little bit curious about, was when Mimori's Nokker took Fushi's arm and his wolf tail.
Yeah, man.
And she said, they will love it too. Who are they? Like the other Knockers or something else? Like
Guardians?
Right, exactly.
I don't. I don't know.
Sure.
I don't know.
Man.
I do think that the Knockers have to be in cahoots with each other. I mean, the Funa Nokker coming in and taking out Mimori Nokker is just example of that they are aware of each other. So maybe they have some sort of meeting place.
Yeah.
um,
Hmm.
or something like that. And maybe that's what happened to Izumi and the other two,
Hmm.
um, because because they found out more than they should. I don't know. Um,
Oh
but
yeah.
it is interesting that she would take trophies, kind of.
Yeah. Right. Right. Yeah. Another one of those things I just can't wait to find out more about.
Mm-hmm.
Although, well, she took those quote unquote trophies, but then she was killed. So I don't know if that's the end of that, or if we'll find out if she actually maybe did something with those before she was killed.
Yeah, I mean, maybe she handed them off to someone. You know,
Right, for sure.
I guess just speaking about the Nokker Mimori, evil demon lolly. It's like this thing. Oh gosh, the expressions
Yeah.
that it has. Some of the most disturbing faces.
Uh huh.
That, we had a whole part one, where there were some obviously very good faces. Some faces that I adore and laugh at and whatnot. And Hayase had some pretty good creep out faces too.
Uh huh. Oh yeah.
But this part, I feel like Oima's really going all out with these creepy faces. Hey, we got some from Mizuha, but also
Right.
she just went to town with evil demon Lali Mimori.
Oh yeah.
Like, of course I died or whatever. When Hirotoshi wakes up, the face that makes, and then when she's fighting
Yeah.
Fushi, and then at the very end, it just wow, she just goes all out on the creepy aspect.
Yeah, and like when she's pulling Hirotoshi's hair out, that's
Yeah.
also really disturbing. Like the faces she makes during that. Oh
Hmm.
my god.
I mean, I love it for the story aspects, but man, it's unsettling.
It is. It's so good.
And part of that reason why Evil Mimori has those faces is because she's experiencing pain, and you totally nailed it. For some reason, I just was like, I knew pain was there, but I didn't think the knockers themselves were feeling it. But
Mm.
it's confirmed for sure that they were, and so it's very interesting that they willingly get into a body that can feel pain, and that they say is not good for anything but pain.
Uh huh.
Willing to go in that body and feel the thing they hate. It's like, what?
Yeah.
Why?
You
Why?
now that you say that, that makes me wonder if the present day knockers operate in other ways as well. Perhaps they have other hiding spots, not just within human bodies, but perhaps other places that we just don't know of yet.
I just imagine like one of the knocker plants like typing away at a keyboard, like have a headset, just kind of like a spy thing going on.
Yeah, I mean, I could be, maybe, I don't know. Yeah.
And maybe that's why the body heals quickly, is that because there's pain, the knocker's like, nope, no, no, fix that up. Fix,
Oh
no,
yeah, yeah,
no
yeah.
pain,
They just
please.
want to get rid of that as quickly as possible. Yeah. Mm.
Yeah, is it for the person, the person that they're quote unquote helping, or is it for their own, like, no, 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 no pain, don't like that. Don't know.
Yeah. That's a good point.
So we talked about the potential of the knocker, taking over and killing Izumi, right? But why? What was the reasoning behind that?
Mm-hmm.
Because before we had always seen the knocker, I guess, at least in Mimori's case, it really only took control when she was being yelled at by her mother, or some other bad things. Like, she would take some of the
Yeah.
bad things and
Uh,
try to help her in that way.
mm,
But it never tried to harm other people until it took full control.
mm.
So I, I, I just wonder why this one felt the need to kill Izumi. Like, why was that so necessary?
Yeah.
Maybe it was just because of all the built up frustration and they just reached a climax. But yeah, I can't. I'm not entirely sure
Hmm.
what the purpose was, but I do think it had something to do with the fact that Izumi was causing Mizuha a lot of pain
Yes.
and
Uh
suffering,
huh.
and so in order to relieve that, maybe the Nokker went that far.
I think that makes the most sense. I sort of started thinking about that as you were starting your little
Oh,
thing there, or well, yeah. I sort of got that same idea as well,
uh-huh.
because I think to the knockers, Mizuha is more important. Like her having Hayase's fire within her, she's important to them perhaps,
Maybe.
at least more so than Izumi,
Right.
and so they needed her to not commit suicide over all of that. Perhaps they needed her alive, and they needed her fight to stay within
Mm-hmm.
her, within that body,
Mm-hmm.
perhaps. And so to ease her life and to make and to prevent her suicide, they made her life easier by getting rid of her real mother and giving her a better mother that wouldn't make her
Yeah.
want to kill herself. I think that makes a lot of sense.
So then they're really working to give her a better life versus maybe those other people or the other knockers like Mimori and Funa.
Mm.
Well, Funa's not dead yet technically. Well, we don't know,
Uh,
but in Mimori's case, the knocker didn't really try to stop her from killing herself.
exactly, but I think it's specifically with Mizuha though,
Mm-hmm.
just because she has Hyace's Fi, and that obviously has a history with the Knockers, where I don't know why or how, but I'm sure there's a significance there, or it's important to them for some reason.
Yeah, that's a strong possibility. Mm-hmm.
Mm-mm. Yeah,
Yeah. Oh man, another one of those things where I just can't wait to learn more.
100%. Yeah.
Um,
Yes.
so when the Funa knocker kills Mimori knocker, she says, "Die once and try again," and
Uh huh.
Mimori's like, "Okay." And
Yeah.
so, what does the try again mean? Does the try again mean you go up to paradise and then you just pick some other suicidal person and take their body? Are the knockers able to do that? Is there a no limit kind of a thing, or did she encourage the knocker to, if they were so attached to life, just be born, and not be a knocker, just actually live life? I don't know.
Hmm. Uh.
Something I was thinking of.
Yeah. I mean, could be. But I really just got the feeling it was to try again as a knocker and to because Mimori's knockers seem to be out of line, even compared to other knockers. I think
Oh yeah.
so.
Hmm.
And that was the reason why it was killed. So to try again is like to do what you're supposed to do as a knocker, but don't go overboard like that again, perhaps.
Maybe Funa's the one that's out of line.
Dude, hey, maybe. Dude, and
Not saying that Funa's like crazy or anything, but just
right.
because
Mm,
of what happens at the end of this chapter,
exactly. Right.
maybe the knockers didn't appreciate Mimori or Funa killing Mimori knocker.
That's really funny. Right. Either it's the knockers punishing the Funa knocker in that scene
Mm-hmm.
for that reason, or it's Mizuha punishing Funa for perhaps well because she thought maybe she was doing something with Fushi.
Oh man,
Like
no.
whichever one of those both make sense, sort of.
Yeah.
That is really funny actually. Ooh, interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah. Um, and then Funa had Hayase's Naginata.
Right.
What is going on? Like, why?
I feel like she must have been like the Guardians must have lent that out to her to do this job.
But why? Why Guardians? Why?
Yeah, right. Yeah, why are the Guardians involved with the Knockers? That I guess it's not too far of a leap since the Guardians with with the highest descendants, they've always had a Knocker basically
Yeah.
working with them and being part of them. So I guess it's
Right.
not too far of a leap, but it is interesting though, and yeah, it's interesting.
Yep. It would be fun to see.
Oh yeah. Is that it for the Knockers?
Yep.
All right. Any other characters? I don't have any other characters with any notes, but go for any ones that you have.
For Yuki, I liked how he was looking for peace talk, but that peace talk ended quickly.
Yeah, yeah. That was funny.
But maybe he'll bring that back up again when we have a less demon knocker to deal with. Who knows?
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah, I hope so because I did like that idea of his.
Hmm. And then this is more funny. He convinced Gugu that Fushi was in heat.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Actually, I really liked seeing kind of how he and Gugu interacts now. Like they've had some time to get kind of become friends now, and yeah, it seems that they've grown somewhat close.
Yeah. And I think lastly I have is just March seeing Perona and crying. That
Yeah.
just really hit me hard,
Mm,
and they never really got to say goodbye adequately.
right. Yeah.
So yeah, that was really sad. It's too bad Perona didn't come back.
Definitely. Absolutely. Yeah. So sad.
Anyway, sorry for talking so long,
It's
but
all good.
a lot of juicy stuff.
It was, honestly, yeah. But I guess that is all for the characters. So I think I've shared all of my predictions and stuff throughout the discussion. Do you have any other any predictions or other things you'd like to mention?
I predict that the next volume will come out in December.
I think that's a solid prediction.
Or is that just fact?
Yeah, right.
No, I don't think I have any other predictions to say.
Right.
I didn't realize 138 was the final chapter of this volume.
Oh yeah, that's right. That was really funny today.
And so Petter then let me know.
Yeah, like you really like a couple hours before we started the recording today, I just double checked for some reason with James. Like, did you read up to chapter 138? And he was like, wait, no, he missed that last chapter. So yeah, so you just read it for the first time today, the final chapter of this. That's fun. A fresh take on that for you.
Sure, and it changed a few of my theories that I expressed and my thinking of the Nokkers and everything. And so it's that final chapter kind of gets you thinking like, well, yeah, where is this story going, and
Oh yeah.
how are the Guardians evolved? What is going on with Mizuha?
Uh-huh.
And yeah, I wonder. I wonder what is going to be her fate.
Dude, yeah, absolutely. I've been absolutely loving all of the cliffhangers that we've gotten since we got into the present day here. Like we mentioned it earlier, like how there's like in a sense some sort of similarity to them all. But man, yeah, they've all been so good, and like the expressions in Mizuha's faces and all of them is like so good.
For sure.
So yeah, cannot wait for volume 16. Super excited for that. So I guess that's it.
Yep.
All right then. If you enjoy our content, you can follow us on Twitter at Umami Manga, and it would be lovely if you'd like to support us by either rating our show on the podcast platforms or subscribing to our channel Umami Manga on YouTube. If you like this episode, please share it with anyone you think might enjoy it too. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time when we'll talk about Volume 16. Bye bye!
See you later. Actually, real quick, my leg is bleeding. So
Oh no!
I don't know why.
Oh no!
It's fine. It's fine.
No, we can take a break, dude. Like,
No, I'm just gonna wipe
Oh.
my leg. So give me one.
Of course, yeah, dude. Take your time with that.
I'll be back.
Yeah. Oh no.